Hello, welcome inside another edition of IndyStar Preps Weekly. My name is Brian Haenchen, joined by Neddenriep and the Akeem Glaspie, as opposed to the other Akeem Glaspie. We're coming to you live this week from Carmel High School in wonderful Carmel, Indiana. What's up, boys?
Not much. Glad to be here. Nice, chilly. I would say chilly, right?
Yeah, it's a little nip in the air.
Yeah. So feels like football weather.
It does.
Sounds like a cliche, but
yeah.
It does.
Akeem?
Yeah, no, it's a little chillier than I expected with my short sleeves, but we'll power through. You know, we're gamers.
We got Akeem in short sleeves, we got Clark in shorts, and we got Kyle dressed to the nines with the button-up dress, shoes, dress, pant, just making us all look bad. We're here to talk football. What week are we in now, Kyle? 7?
7, yes. We're going into week 7. So next Sunday will be the sectional draw. So we'll probably do something a little special for that too, but that's October 9th.
Goodness gracious, yeah. Where's the time gone?
I know it. I know you're busy with your stuff too, so you seems like you're out doing something every night.
Yeah, it's fun. We're in sectional draw season. We have soccer this week, volleyball next week, soccer playoffs start next week too, then volleyball right after that, and then like you said, football is close to follow. So we're in the fun time of year for sure.
Girls basketball right on the horizon.
I don't want to think about it yet. I'm not ready.
I don't blame you.
Kyle, though, fun story, actually just left Center Grove because his game was still going. They took a break so he could come do the show with us.
Right.
My God, Kyle, I think my game was almost over and you guys were at halftime. I've never seen anything like that.
No, it was, and I've covered some crazy games over the years, but the first half of that game, it was unlike, I think, anything I've ever seen. It was 49-33 at halftime. So 12 touchdowns. 855 yards between the two teams overall, and believe it or not, Center Grove got 3 stops in a row on LC, and that's kind of how they took the lead and kind of had the advantage the rest of the game because they weren't stopping Ahmad Duff, and LC couldn't do anything to stop Micah Coyle and Jalen Thomason and that running, and Tyler Cherry and Noah Coy. Coy, by the way, just a very, very good receiver. I was very impressed with him, the strides he's made. The first time I saw Center Grove, but I thought Center Grove after halftime, you could tell, there was some paint coming off the walls probably in the locker room at halftime with, we got to do things better defensively. I think they were a little embarrassed, even though they were ahead at halftime. Like, we can't give up points like that, and shut them down. Third quarter, it was neither team actually scored. LC got a couple big plays defensively, but then Center Grove their running game eventually won out, and they win 63-41. And I would have liked to seen Bryson Luter had to come out of the game, and that, who knows? I mean, I think Center Grove still would have won, but he was dinged up a little bit. Sounds like he'll be able to play this week. But he was really cooking, and so they brought in a freshman, Terry Walker, who's, by the way, very 6'2". He can throw it too, and he played pretty well, led him to a touchdown late in the game. But at the end of the day, too much offense for Center Grove, just too many weapons. Defensively, they started to get it right by the end of the game. I'm still ranking them number 1 for now. I don't know if that's the right answer or not. According to some people, it's not. but they still haven't lost to a in-state team, in my opinion. So in my opinion, they get the benefit of the doubt to a certain extent. But defensively, they're going to have to play better, and they know that. They've got some guys out, though, and Gavin Oakes got injured, and I'm curious how that, if hopefully he's able to come back. He's a big part of that secondary for Center Grove. But yeah, crazy game. I mean, like I said, unlike I think any game I've ever covered, and Center Grove found a way to get it done. LC, I think, some things they showed bodes well. Defensively, though, they got to get some things figured out for sure.
Was that your first time seeing Center Grove this season?
In person, yeah.
Were you impressed? Do you think that what as you look at them, what do you think their biggest challenger will be, or who do you think their biggest challenger will be?
I mean, looking ahead, I think they'll be okay. I'm curious to see how the Cathedral game goes. The next 2 weeks they should be okay, and then that Cathedral game in week 9 will be kind of it's been the last 2 years kind of that showdown type of game. I think it will be again. Out of a curiosity standpoint, and to see, you can see those two teams play now in 6A in the tournament. So, that could be kind of do the teams kind of hold things back a little bit? Do they actually, I'm sure they're going to want to win the game when it comes down to it. But so in the tournament, though, I would think, they're going to be all right. I would think in the sectional, and then, once they get to that regional, and then the semi-state potentially, there's Brownsburg out there, which I think is probably their top I would say maybe the number one team right now as far as a challenger. But also you got Ben Davis, who's very scary, who's played them the last 2 years in the semi-state, and Cathedral obviously is out there. And then teams like LC, I mean, you never know. Those teams are, a team like that, very talented, very explosive on offense, and could give teams a problem. They gave them a problem on Friday. So it's kind of a fun year that way, and we've talked about that a lot. But in Carmel, I mean, we're standing here at one of the schools that I omitted from that conversation. They'll play Ben Davis on Friday, but they're on the other side of the bracket, so a little bit different. They wouldn't see them till Lucas Oil Stadium. But yeah, I mean, there's a lot of teams out there I think that could definitely challenge them.
Thanks to the way that this state does sectional draws and decides their playoff bracketing, which is the dumbest thing I've ever seen, frankly. Is there a chance that we see Cathedral Center Grove in the first round? Because, I mean, that's when you want two of the better teams in the state to play is opening night in the first round of the playoffs in, what would that be, October, second week in October.
Well, thankfully they're not in the same sectional,
okay.
So you wouldn't see it right off the bat. Now you could see, Center Grove is probably in a sectional that they're going to be pretty well favored. I mean, maybe Franklin Central will be a team that they could see, and they're an improving team too, program as well. But yeah, so we wouldn't see. We could see Carmel HSE in the regional, or HSE Fishers in the first round of the sectional potentially. Carmel's in there with Westfield and Zionsville, so you could see one of those teams match up. But it does set up a little bit different, and now you could see Ben Davis Brownsburg possibly in the first round of the sectional.
Cool.
Which that would be knock out one of the better teams in the state right away. So. That's what you get. I mean, it's kind of I agree. I don't love it either, but I guess that's what we're doing.
Yeah, it's fun. Akeem, do something.
I'll have to make some phone calls.
Just use the poll that you've been gaining in the picks contest to see what you can get done. Shifting to something that Akeem can do something about, and that is tell us, what a transition, by the way. Tell us about the game that you had Friday night.
Yeah, I had two smaller schools, but two really talented teams in Lutheran and Atcina. Lutheran was undefeated coming in. Both teams are undefeated coming in, and Lutheran kind of showed why they're the reigning Class A champion. They haven't lost in nearly 2 years, so they're on a 21-game winning streak, I believe, and it was a kind of it turned into a kind of a quarterback showdown in a way between DJ Mendez and Jackson Willis. Just two talented quarterbacks, two gunslingers, two guys that are kind of in complete control of their offenses. I mean, on the ground, it looked like Lutheran had a good day with Joe Davis, but most of his yardage came kind of late and on a couple big runs. But Lutheran's front seven kind of held up their end of the bargain the way I thought they would, with Adam Young and Tamir Woods, really stuffing the run early, kind of causing havoc on Willis early. But in the second half, Willis kind of found his kind of stride and had a couple nice passes, some of the best deep passing that I've seen all year, really, to Brian. There was like a 35-yard touchdown pass right down the seam. Couldn't have placed it any better for one of his touchdowns. And DJ Mendez was kind of going throw for throw as well until he got hurt in the fourth quarter. They were playing defense. So moving forward, that'll be a big key because, I mean, DJ does pretty much everything for Atcina. But, I mean, Lutheran showed why they're one of the classes in Class A and just kind of the offense that they have. So that was my first time seeing Lutheran, and I was curious how the offense would kind of develop with Montese Clay. He was kind of a big part of the running attack and passing attack, but Willis is more of a conventional pocket passer, and he got it done from the pocket, and it was impressive to see.
What was that game night experience like, being at the smaller schools? A lot of pomp and circumstance, I'd imagine?
Well, they played at Roncalli, so, I mean, it was it was a great atmosphere. You would never guess that one of the teams involved was a Class A school, the way that Lutheran kind of showed up and represented. So, yeah, both teams were kind of it was a great atmosphere and a great game all around.
I got to say, we're out here at Carmel this morning, and somebody's wearing a hot dog costume. We should have had them on camera with us. I don't know what's going on this morning, but that was a missed opportunity on our part.
He could have been a guest picker on the show.
Man, we are completely missing out. But yeah, so you never know what you're going to get when you come out to the schools.
That's right. It's fun. This is the closest we've had to a live studio audience since we did the Roncalli show. It's too bad. I thought Akeem and Clark were going to invite all their friends and have a support system there.
Hakeem, no comment.
Oh, yes. No comment.
That's fine. Akeem's got no comment. Clark's not even watching me. It's fine. I guess I should talk about my game, huh? As I pull up my notes. HSE really took control of that game in the second half. It was a punt, similar to a lot of games. It seems like just a special teams play where they had a punt roll down to the 5. Zionsville almost was tackled in the end zone for a safety on the first play, and then the running back had to be basically pushed out of the end zone by his quarterback on the second play, and you could just feel everything shift to the other sideline. They were up 3-0, Zionsville was, and hanging in there really well, but you could just feel everything turn from there. The defense holds HSE to a field goal to tie the game. Very next play, though, from scrimmage after the field goal, Zionsville throws an interception, and then the wheels kind of came off from there for the Eagles, and HSE pulled away. The one big takeaway from that game was Donovan Hamilton. He missed last year due to an injury, came back this year, and he's 6'4". He's visited Notre Dame. He visited Purdue last weekend. Wow. Really, really good. He's got the size. Obviously, he's quick. And just, some of the catches that kid makes, just circus catches where going up, beating defenders, out muscling guys that are probably older and a little bit bigger than him too. Just really impressed him and his ability to make plays there. He did a bit of everything between going up, going for balls, pulling balls in, running into the end zone. He only had 4 catches, but he finished with well over 100 yards. And then a couple touchdowns, I think it was. So just the game-changing talent that HSE has there. And it was fun watching him go off like that and getting a glimpse at this kid who, like I said, is kind of making up for lost time after missing last year due to injury. And he seems like one of those kids whose recruiting stock is only going to continue soaring.
And Tom Allen was there when they played Fishers to see. He was there on the sideline to watch him, too, from Indiana. So, and, yeah, he's another really good basketball player. He'll be a starter. He was, a big player for them last year. So anytime you talk 6'4" receiver at HSE, it always, Gary Harris is the name that you always think about, and what he, the things he did as a multi-sport athlete. At the same time, Randy Gregory, who's on, TV the other night for the Broncos. So they had some really good athletes. I'm speaking my age, I guess, about 10, 12 years ago. But that's kind of, you think of a big, lanky receiver who's also a basketball player like that. Hamilton, a lot like Harris that way.
HSE and their prospects, that was my first time seeing them. But Kyle, as you look at them, what do you think their chances are of getting out of their sectional and making a run in regional?
Well, I think, I'm really curious to see, and we got some good games that last week of the year. They'll play Brownsburg, and it'll could be 2 undefeated teams playing for the conference title in that game. So I think that'll tell us a lot. Now, if they can get to that game undefeated, that would say a lot anyway. But I was impressed when I saw them play Fishers. I really thought Fishers let the opportunity get away, but also give credit to HSE for going and finding a way to win that game, where for parts of that game they were outplayed by Fishers, I thought. So, but I think, Ty Bradle's getting better and better at quarterback. They got it, like you said, Donovan Hamilton, a big weapon. They run the ball relatively well, and they play really good defense. That's the thing under Michael Kelly since he got there. I've been impressed. They don't make a lot of mistakes on the defensive side. They're tough to drive the full length of the field against. And I think that bodes well for them. Now, and I think Brownsburg's similar that way, and Brownsburg may have a little bit more offensive weapons, I would say, than HSE does as a whole, with their running backs and receivers and a veteran quarterback too. So I think I would be curious to see what that game looks like, and I would probably favor Brownsburg slightly. But HSE going north and playing in their sectional, which is sectional 3, they will be favored, I think, to win that sectional, and then possibly play Carmel in the what would be the regional in the north side, and that could be potentially for a spot in the state finals. HSE Carmel, it could come down to that on the north side. So yeah, I like their chances. They're a well-coached team. They run the ball well. They do all the things well that bodes well for November, I think.
You mentioned their defense too, and I should point that out. Zionsville got nothing doing on the ground, and talking to their coach, it starts up front with the guys that they have in the trenches and just their ability to create pressure and cause havoc, which allows the guys behind them to play fast and aggressive and loose and that sort of thing and fly around. That was the word that was kind of the buzzword from Friday night, was fly around, and that was impressive to see. And their quarterback Ty, he was putting some balls on the money. It was really fun to watch him throw it around a little bit too, and then they looked really impressive there against Zionsville.
Yeah, it'll be fun to see what if they can both stay undefeated. Brownsburg HSC, that could be a lot of fun the last game of the year.
Big upset last week with Whiteland falling to Martinsville right down the road.
Yeah, so we were talking about that before the show with Clark. He was down there, but I was surprised. I thought that'd be a good game, but I know Akeem, you've seen Whiteland, and they're so physical. And they've beaten some good teams. Akeem, I was surprised by that score to see. I know we both picked against Martinsville last week, so obviously we were surprised. Yeah,
again, talking to the Whiteland's coach, they're they understand their kind of the way that they play and that it's hard to stop them on the ground. And I would imagine it starts there with Emberton kind of stopping his running game. And the passing attack was evolving at the time, and I didn't see the stats, but I know that when they have balance, that's when they're at their best. So if you could shut down one or the other, and they're not a natural passing team, so if you could shut down their running game and make them one-dimensional, that'll be that's a good way to start. And I know Martinsville has a great passing attack as well. So, and Whiteland's not really equipped to play from behind it, but I know they were kind of a very physical game. That's kind of what you expected. But, yeah, that was kind of a surprising outcome, I would say, because Whiteland looked great when I saw them, and the confidence was really high around the team, too, because, again, their quarterback had been playing very well, so that was kind of a surprising result.
And Braden Shrake from Martinsville, he had 175 rushing yards and 2 touchdowns. So, if you can run like that and you have Tyler Atkins at quarterback, I mean, and he had over 200 yards. So they were over 400 yards offense against Whiteland. So
and that's not the type of game Whiteland wants to get into.
Not at all. So I wrote about this a little bit in the Monday column, but the Mid-State Conference kind of in flux now with Mooresville also losing to Franklin. So now you've got, it's up in the air. Martinsville may have the upper hand, but looking at their schedule, and then Plainfield is also in the mix now after they beat Decatur in overtime. So it's been a really fun year. When you look at the conference races and stuff, the Mid-State Conference has been about as fun week to week as any conference in the state. Because all these games seem to be close and they're all competitive at the top. So kind of fun to see how that all shakes out. Mooresville's really relying on Nick Patterson a lot. I mean, he's carrying the ball 24, 25 times a game. Hard to win like that when you're asking that much out of one guy. And that may have caught up with them a little bit against Franklin, which played a freshman quarterback, and he got the job done. So, again, 5A is just it's going to be so fun to see what happens in 5A because it's so wide open. I mean, you look up and down the list, like you think Merrillville, Whiteland, even Plainfield now beating Decatur. Decatur's still talented, but I mean Franklin's got a chance. They'll get Max Clark back, and they'll be a problem in the playoffs. So I don't know if I've ever seen a class as wide open as 5A where you can't really pick who's going to be in the state finals, let alone who's going to win it.
You touched on a number of games there. Were there any other surprises to either of you guys last week, or there was any other results that jumped out to you as you were scrolling the scoreboards?
Those were probably the one that stuck out to me was Lebanon beat TriWest. I think that was a game that I can't remember if we picked that game last week, but if we did, we picked it wrong.
Yeah.
So TriWest had been coming off 2. They beat Western Boone and then Danville in really close games. But Lebanon, we kind of knew that, they're a 4A team too, so TriWest playing up a class there in the conference play. But Lebanon got down 14-0, comes back and wins 21-14, and kind of shut down TriWest running game. And Ty Owens still had a pretty good game throwing, but a good win for Lebanon, a program that's kind of been building and puts them right in the thick of the Sagamore conference race. I know you love talking about the Sagamore conference.
I love the Sagamore conference, man. The best of the conferences. What is it, the Frankfurt Hot Dogs?
Yeah, absolutely.
They're my team. They're my team. Sorry to everybody else, but Frankfurt Hot Dogs.
We should have brought the hot dog on to cook.
We should have.
That would have been I'm regretting that. I didn't see it soon enough, I guess.
Clark, I'd like to formally request you have a hot dog emoji in this week's show title. I think it's just the theme. Akeem, anything else jump out to you, or should we get to how you did in the picks last week? I know you've been itching to get to it.
Let's get to the picks. That's what we came here for, right?
Kyle, what were the records last week? I can't find them.
Akeem beat me by 1. We'll have to get Clark's input on the actual records, but what'd you say you were 7-3?
Yeah, I believe I was 7-3.
So that must have made me 6-4. And I heard from Joel Walker. Thank you for so on Twitter Spaces, and I don't know if we've shouted out our Twitter Spaces, but you guys come on. We do that Friday nights after the game.
It's great stuff, by the way.
It's fun.
Love me to interrupt, but if you aren't watching Kyle's Twitter Spaces or listening in afterwards, you really should be, because Akeem and I have both listened, but either getting on or Friday night that we have off, just listening in. I mean, Kyle's ability to run through games is incredible.
He's a machine.
He is. It's like encyclopedic knowledge. I know we joke about it, but it is legitimately fascinating, and it's fun to listen to. Like, even without a vested interest in any of it, because I just sort of pop in for a game each Friday, it's fun to listen to. It's entertaining. It's interesting. And you get to hear Akeem.
Yeah, absolutely.
Which is great.
And he had a party going on next to his house.
Oh, my gosh.
Friday night.
Yeah, my neighbors were through a rager. But, again, Kyle is a machine. The knowledge that he has is just so impressive, which makes my beating him in the picks that much more special.
That makes you even more impressive.
Yes, kind of. Transitively, yes.
But anyway, so we're doing the Twitter Spaces. And Joe Walker from Warren Central, receiver, chimes in and makes me mention that I got the game wrong. So yes, Joe, and I did. I shouted him out on Twitter Spaces, but yeah, join us every roughly. This was a later one this week because of the Center Grove game went so late, but normally about 10:30 or so, and we're on for however long. But yeah, I appreciate you guys doing it. It's been a fun addition to our coverage on Friday nights.
Great idea. So Akeem now has a 2-game lead on Kyle. Everybody's wondering how Akeem's going to play it. Is he going to play a little more conservatively now? How are the bosses? How are Clark and I going to make the picks contest more intriguing? Will we add a wild card? Will we try to stack the deck against one of our 2 competitors to try and help out Kyle, our king, or Akeem, the lovable underdog? What's going to happen? Nobody knows, but we thank you all for watching and ask you to continue doing that because I like having a job. Let's start off this week's picks at Carmel, where we are tonight. Ben Davis, Carmel. Both teams come in 4-2. Carmel obviously started the year 0-2, but have since won 4 straight. Ben Davis, we talked about them earlier, one of the top teams in the state. Kyle, let's start with you and your thoughts on that game.
Yeah, this is more. I think I'm actually covering this game Friday. One of the more intriguing games, I think, and I keep struggling with the idea in my head that it's not a MIC game because the MIC will come down to probably Ben Davis and LC, which will be next week. They're both undefeated in the MIC play. So, again, it's hard to they're going to keep playing each other. Ben Davis and Carmel have a good relationship. I think they're going to keep playing as non-conference opponents in the coming years. But in this game, I think it's 2 teams that are definitely trending in the right direction. Carmel got off to that 0-2 start. And I remember we talked because you'd seen them play, Brian. They were the best 0-2 team in the state, pretty clearly, and they've proven that over these last 4 weeks. Last week against North Central, they had a safety, an interception for a touchdown, a punt return for a touchdown, and a punt block for a touchdown. Cool. So you score 50 points, but a lot of it was on special teams and defense. But they do have a good offense. Reese Bellin is having a phenomenal year at receiver for Carmel, and a fun matchup with Marcus Reese on the other side for Ben Davis, who's also having a phenomenal year at receiver. Been a good year in general for the receiving group in our area in central Indiana. But Ben Davis kind of struggled a little bit with LN, couldn't quite put him away last week. They end up winning 34-28. But it seems to me like a team that's they can win a shootout. I'm a little curious defensively. They've given up, I think, an average of 30 points the last 3 games. So how does that look for Friday night? I see this as a toss-up type game, which I think playing at home, I think Carmel's got maybe a little bit of an advantage. I think Ben Davis is going to give them a really good game, and I wouldn't be surprised if the Giants won, but I'll take Carmel just by maybe a field goal.
Akeem?
Agree. I mean, I really do think this game is a toss-up. I could see either team winning it. It could be a shootout, or between 2 really talented passing attacks, or it could be a defensive game where the teams are kind of maybe struggling to find their footing on offense. But again, like Kyle said, I mean, it could go either way, but advantage to the home team. So I'm going Carmel.
My phone started acting up just like I went to the next game. Mooresville 5-1 at Whiteland 5-1. Both teams coming off hard losses last week. Akeem, who's going to win this one?
Yeah, I mean, I wish I knew for sure, obviously. But again, like Kyle said, Nick Patterson is. I love a dual threat quarterback, but how much can you actually put on one person? Noah Hogan-Denny again for Mooresville, and I mean, can you be one dimensional if you have to just rely on one person to do all the passing and all the running? That's going to be a lot, and obviously Whiteland is a team that you have to bring your chin strap and be ready to run to stop that run for 4 quarters. So, and it only takes one big run from Emberton to kind of get on the edge there or up the middle to swing the game. Obviously, these 2 teams know each other well. This is another toss-up game that I'm having trouble picking, but I'm going with. I gotta even check to make sure I know which team I did because I had no idea. I picked Whiteland.
I'll tell you.
Okay, I went with Whiteland, but maybe I'll change it later. But right now, at this moment, I'm feeling Whiteland.
Pick is locked in. There's no changing. A question though: how long is Denny out for? Is he going to be back in time for sectional?
It sounded like it'd be a little while, right?
I'm not sure. I'd have to talk to his dad or the coach there, but I'm not sure. But I know that he's a talented receiver and defensive back as well. So, I mean, and obviously a really talented baseball player and great all-around athlete. So you can't really just replace that player with one person. He does so much that it takes multiple people to kind of replace what he can do. So that kind of puts him at a kind of a slight disadvantage. So that's probably what led me to pick Whiteland.
I like it. Such in-depth analysis. This is why we are so good as a group. Kyle, who do you have in this game?
I agree. I think Whiteland, just based on their, I think Akeem touched on it there. When you're relying on Patterson that much as he's a great player, and again, he could easily lead them to a win. I just think as a whole, Whiteland's going to be very motivated. I'm sure they both are coming off losses. That kind of adds another layer of, just having to try to get it done this week to win the conference. Both of them need a win here. So that adds another part of this game. But I do like Whiteland. I just think with their running, able to control the ball, and then, play against Patterson, I think they're going to be ready for that. But, again, I think it would be like a 17-16 type or 21-17 or something like that. I think it would be kind of low scoring and kind of a struggle both ways.
All right, Kyle also going with Whiteland in that one. Lawrence North 2-4 at Warren Central 3-3. Kyle?
Yeah, I like what Lawrence North did last week. I also like what Warren came back and put it on Pike pretty well as that game went along. And that was a game where I picked again. Warren had kind of struggled on offense the week before against Ben Davis, at least late in the game. Missed on several opportunities to tie that game up or get closer. And Lawrence North, I think they're one of these scary teams too, because with Richardson and some of the guys they have on the defensive side, they can match up athletically with Warren. And there's going to be a lot. This is a rivalry type game in the MIC, and a game that Ellen won the sectional last year. So Warren's got a lot to play for, trying to get back at them. So I'm going to take Warren again. I think a game that. I think it's going to be a good one. I would not be surprised if LN was able to pull this off and win Friday, but I'm going to take the Warriors.
Akeem?
Yeah, and we kind of headed into last week's game wondering how Warren would do with their backup quarterback. They're able, obviously, to move the ball without Keith Jackson. Joe Walker caught a touchdown pass. So I'm going Warren Central.
Fishers at Franklin Center. Fishers are 4-2 on the year. Franklin Central and even 3-3.
Yeah, like Kyle said, Franklin Central's kind of been improving. They were able to hold Noblesville to just one touchdown, 3.4 yards per carry against a really talented Noblesville team that loves to run the ball. So, I mean, if you can play like that defensively against another run-heavy team like Fishers, I think Franklin Central could get it done. I feel like this might be a slight upset, but I'm going Franklin Central.
Wow. Kyle?
Hey, now I'm going to have to take – I was thinking about Franklin Central, but now I'm going to take Fishers and try to get one up on Akeem here. That's going to change my – but I think it's one of the reasons I put this game on the list. I think it's very competitive. Fishers really struggled with the Avon last week. They had to come back. They were down in that game, and if not for a 90-yard kickoff return by John Anthony Hall, they would probably have lost that game. So they needed that kickoff return, and that gave them the lead back, and they held on and beat Avon, who's another kind of scary team that can score a lot of points. But, yeah, I sort of agree with Akeem. I think Franklin Central's they're trending in the right direction. Kind of curious where Fishers is going, how they need to get some momentum back to prepare for the playoffs. But I'll take Fishers and try to beat the man here on that one.
John Anthony Hall did the thing, huh? The kickoff return?
He did.
That kid is fun to watch,
He's fun to watch. He's a lot like, you talk about Donovan Hamilton, kind of those game breaker type of, just because they're the same school district, you kind of think of them together. But yeah, man, he's electric in the open field.
Game changer type. Triton Central 5-1 at Cecina, versus Cecina 5-1. That game is being played at Arsenal Technical. Kyle, who you have?
Yeah, I think this is a game. Cecina has been had the upper hand in this series for the most part over the last several years. How did they come off that loss to Lutheran? A physical game that I'm sure they felt like they could have had it. They were in the lead for a good chunk of that game. And honestly, what Akeem mentioned with Mendez, how is he, if he's playing, how does he look, and if not, then that kind of puts you in a bind a little bit. So I'm actually going to take Triton Central to win this game, and again, should be a really good game, and a game where you might be playing for number 2 in the conference in the Indiana Crossroads, but no shame in that. We talk about the Mid-State, but that conference, really good football in that conference every single year, and then those 3 teams, Lutheran, Cecina, and Triton Central, are a big reason why.
Akeem, you had a chance to see Cecina last week. What do you make of this game this week?
Yeah, I mean, like I mentioned earlier, if Mendez is playing and at 100%, I'll pick Cecina with confidence. He does a lot. He kind of even in the rushing attack, and he kind of scrambles to set up the passing attack as well. The running backs, Brandon Fitzramsey, Marcus Greathouse, they struggle to get going a little bit. So that would put, if they can't correct that kind of issues in the running game, that would put even more on DJ Mendez's shoulders. So I'm curious to see how he handles that if he's able to play. Do they rely on him to run less? Do they need to get more out of their running backs? Can Triton Central stop them? I'm saying no. I'm going to Atcina.
We're bringing back vintage Akeem, where he builds up one team and says, having said that, I think they're going to lose by 40.
No, didn't say that. I think it's going to be a great game. But, again, Cecina's defense is really good with Adam Young and Tamir Woods and the Barrielts in the secondary. Madden Barriel, 3 interceptions the last 2 games. So they're playing really great kind of on both sides of the ball and at all levels of the defense. So Cecina's really impressed me. So, again, it comes down to a healthy Mendez. A healthy Mendez will give them the upper hand, I believe.
Next game for us, Louisville Male out of Kentucky. They're 3-2 at Roncalli, 6-0. Akeem?
Yeah, I actually had a chance to go to Roncalli last week for a story I'm working on with Luke Hansen, but I was able to talk to the offensive linemen, and offensive linemen don't talk very much, but I was able to get some good stuff out of them. They love kind of the new concepts that Coach Katana has brought to the offense. Katana also played offensive line, so he kind of, when they have questions, they can kind of get that first-hand experience, and it's kind of helping them grow. You don't really need grow is kind of a scary term because they're very large humans. With 3 of them heading to play in Division I next in the future. So when you have that kind of those just security guards up front, Luke Hansen, he's averaging 7-8 yards a carry. One of the leading rushers in the nation. I think that'll be hard to stop. So I'm going Roncalli.
Do they have like a fun nickname? Like in South Dakota, they were the Hippos. At State, they were like the Hogs, I think 605 Hogs. Do the Roncalli linemen have like a cool?
I didn't ask them that. That'd be a good question for me to ask them in the future. But no, not that I know of. Just very large men. I would call them the solar eclipse.
Solar eclipse.
Yes, when they were all standing around me, it just got really dark in the room, and I was like, what is going on here? But
there, you named them then. So
yeah, maybe that'll catch on. If they do, I want to trademark that now. But I think Roncalli, their offense is just a juggernaut. They'd be hard to stop.
Akeem going with the Solar Eclipse and the Royals. The Royal Solar Eclipse. Kyle, who do you have in this game?
I'm going to agree. Louisville Male is always one of the better teams out of Louisville, so this will be a good test. And they've had a lot of them. And if you didn't notice, Friday, Brebeuf was actually ahead of Roncalli at halftime. It was 14-10. And I was trading some texts with people who were there watching and said, we might be in trouble here from the Roncalli side. And but then, they kind of got that running game going. Hansen had 43 carries and, 200-something, 55 yards or something like that.
Healthy amount of work.
So good workload, and that's what they do. And then defensively, they kind of got things stopped for Brebeuf. So, I think another good test for them, and all of this is sort of building towards what I think will be Roncalli and New Pal, basically playing for a state championship before the state championship. So I can't wait to see, and that's a ways off. But another good test and a long line of them for Roncalli.
Oh, Lord, they're in the same sectional, aren't they?
No, they're in, I think they would, I'd have to look. I think they would play in the regional or semi-state.
Okay, so at least it's later in the tournament.
A little bit later.
That'll be a fun, interesting game.
Man,
First meeting, right?
That'd be dynamite, yeah.
Yeah. Oh, baby.
Yeah.
Playing field 3-3 at Franklin, 4-2, as you mentioned earlier. Franklin coming off a big win last week. Max Clark is back. Kyle, what do you think?
I like the juice Franklin's playing with and coming off a big win. Plainfield, this is pretty cool for them, too. Brian Woodard's in his final year as coach. He kind of got things set up, ahead of time where they have a coach in place on his staff, but he's able to go out. I think it's his 17th year at Plainfield, and I'm glad for him. He's one of the nicer guys in coaching, and if you ask people around the area, well, I think most would agree with that. So to see them have success, cool for him. They're 3-3 now, and they actually have a chance to play for a conference championship. They have a very tough end of the season schedule here. But I think Franklin, in my opinion, they're just probably the slightly better team here. But Plainfield, to beat Decatur, that's no joke. So I think I think it'll be an interesting game.
Akeem?
Yeah, and that was freshman quarterback Grayson Betts that gave Franklin kind of a big boost. I know the offense had been a little stagnant without some of their playmakers, and yeah, I talked to Max Clark last week. He'll be back. He spent about a month in Florida with Team USA. I'll actually have a story on that later, but he'll be back. He had to sit out last week, but obviously when you have a game changer like that at wide receiver and a freshman quarterback that's kind of giving them the spark that they need to kind of improve that offense a bit, I think I'm taking Franklin.
That's a fun gig. Spend a month in Florida, just hang out, play some ball.
Yeah.
We have a kid in a Santa Claus costume actually walking through the park. I don't know what's going on here at Carmel today, but
is it homecoming week?
It must be. Dress up for homecoming type day.
Maybe we need to have one of those. Maybe next week can be our homecoming.
Yeah,
show.
we do.
We'll go back to the office. We'll dress up. You can wear the hot dog costume. Akeem and I'll figure out some cute little tandem costume. I think that'd be great.
I actually do own a hot dog costume.
Oh, you do?
You'll never see me wear it.
Why are you not wearing it?
But
yeah,
I don't know why I said that. I feel like I'm going to regret mentioning that.
We can do what we did on the first show. We're going to tell Akeem we're going to do a theme. Then you and I forget about the theme, and Akeem shows up in a hot dog costume.
I'll still be the best dressed one on set.
Perfect. Thank you. I don't know, man. Kyle looks pretty good today.
Thank you.
Cincinnati, LaSalle, 2-4 at Cathedral, 4-1. Akeem?
Yeah, I mean, like Kyle said, these out-of-state games can kind of go either way. You don't really know what to expect, but I mean, with Cathedral, they're another juggernaut with Danny O'Neill at quarterback and kind of what he can bring to the offense. I'm going Cathedral. It's kind of hard to pick against them with the way they've played so far.
Kyle?
Yeah, I agree. Typically, LaSalle's been always pretty good coming out of Cincinnati. They play a tough schedule. I was going through their schedule yesterday. They have lost some games to good programs like Moeller and St. Xavier, so they'll be ready. I mean, they'll have talent for sure. But I think Cathedral, I think they're ready for like another challenge. They had an off week last week and then played Hammond Morton, and it was kind of another off week. It was 56-0 at halftime, and then so they've sort of been getting healthy and waiting for another big game. This all kind of gearing up for them. I'm curious to see what they look like these last few weeks of the season and kind of get a sense of like where are they as far as where have they improved, how's the running game look, how's the defense look, and then we'll get a chance to see them against Center Grove that last game. But I'll take the Irish in this one.
Shortridge versus Crispus Attucks. Shortridge comes in 3-3. Attucks 3-2. That game is being played at Northwest. Kyle.
Yeah, so this is a game, big IPS game. Diego Pettiford for Crispus Attucks. I'm putting him doing a story on some of the kind of the under radar players in the area. Having a really good. I don't have his stats right on me, but he's rushed for like over 500 yards and passed for over 500. I think even more than that this season for Attucks. So this Shortridge team, and I've been around Shortridge doing a story actually a couple weeks out on IPS football. And these two teams have both had pretty good seasons, and Shortridge has two really good receivers that I've talked to, and guys who've stuck with the program, which is cool to see because IPS needs those kids who are going to stick with it and not bounce somewhere else, and it kind of adds some stability, which Javon McCray is trying to build there at Shortridge. So I think this will be a really good game. Both these programs have kind of been building in the right direction, doing it the right way. I'm going to take Shortridge to win a close game.
Akeem?
And I agree with Kyle. Shortridge is kind of they have playmakers, across the offense. James Edmondson is a dual threat guy. Jordan Murray is a talented running back, and Elias Diallo is one of the guys that Kyle talked to, a big play receiver. So when you have weapons and a dual threat quarterback, again, I'm a sucker for a quarterback that can run. I'm going Shortridge.
Pro hot dogs and pro quarterbacks that can run.
There you go. We need to get that on a T-shirt.
That should be our slogan from now on. Brownsburg 6-0 at Zionsville 4-2. Zionsville looking to bounce back. Brownsburg coming off a big win over Westfield last week. Akeem?
Yeah, I mean, again, we talk about the Center Groves and the Brownsburgs, the teams that have been playing really well and consistent throughout the year. Brownsburg's offense is a well-oiled machine. I don't know what else to say about Brownsburg that hasn't already been said. I think they've been playing very well. I'm going Brownsburg.
Yeah, I agree. I think Wilson covered that game for us last Brownsburg Westfield game, and he put in a story there that Brownsburg allowed -3 rushing yards to Westfield. So if you can do that, I mean, that kind of shows how Brownsburg's been playing defensively. And I think Westfield scored the first possession and then didn't score again until I think their last possession of the game. So, to hold that Westfield offense down like that, and Westfield's going through, some rebuilding process a little bit, and they're still a very good program, but not quite as talented as they've been the last couple of years. But Brownsburg, sometimes in the past they might have lost a game like that. So they come out, pretty well dominated and on a homecoming night, and I think that bodes well moving forward. They're going to have to look out for Zionsville with Abney and Hilton and Bumgardner. They can make things tough, and I know you got a chance to see them against HSE, which they weren't able to do a whole lot against that defense. So I think that bodes well for Brownsburg to win this game.
Absolutely, absolutely. So that does it for the picks. Did you guys differ on more than one game, or was it just
two?
the
I think,
one?
right?
I know it was Franklin Central Fishers was one, and
I had Triton Central.
Okay.
And Cecina, yeah.
So 2 games. Kyle can
he can tie
this up.
It's
here.
Go Tigers week. Fishers and Triton Central.
Yeah, need that as Orgeron.
Yeah.
Orgeron Go Tigers clip. This is the part of the show where I ask, what do you guys have coming this week, Kyle?
That's a great question. I've got a story coming on Josh Mickens from Lawrence Central. And then also, I mentioned Diego Pettiford. Tomorrow morning, which be Wednesday morning, I'll have like some under-the-radar players who probably don't get the run that some others do, and maybe some guys who, we didn't have on our super team that, could have been on it, or, whatever. About a dozen to 15 of those type names for people to look out for, and people who don't always get their name out there, who are having really good years. One of those, too, and Elijah Jackson from Lawrence Central, running back. He's one of the better running backs, and I kind of, I think he's definitely worthy of putting up there among the best. He's really good. I like his running style. He gets his shoulders turned and gets the most out of his runs. And I think if they can, another tangent here, but I think if they can kind of rely on him and then work their, they're going to be really tough offensively. But I was very impressed with Jackson Friday night.
Akeem, what do you have this week?
Yeah, like I said, last week I went down to UIndy to talk to their new all-time rushing leader. I believe that story is out now or maybe tomorrow. And then, again, working on Ron Colley and just kind of their offensive line, the way that they protect Luke Hansen and
Hashtag the Solar Eclipse.
Hashtag Solar Eclipse. Max Clark, that story as well. And then I'll be back at the Lucas Oil Stadium on Sunday for more Colt stuff. So.
What a flex. What a flex. Budding up with Mahomes on Sunday, then going back next week. Wow, wow, wow. Akeem, do you have any closing words as the picks leader?
No.
Okay. Well, we thank you all so much
Enough
for watching. Inspirational words from Akeem Glaspie. Put those on a shirt. Hashtag Solar Eclipse. Hashtag Free the Hot Dog. We'll talk to you all next week.